Until it's been taken off.
Ai mihi ana kia koutou ko tau mai anō I rungi I tō tātou nei komiti Māori. Ka tuwhera tō tātou nei hui ka karakia tātou. Ka tākina te kawa ko te kawa nui, ko te kawa roa, ko te kawa whakatiki ahu mai no tiki tiki o te rangi. Kia atu poake ko te pū, ko te wehu, ko te rito, ko te take, ko te wānanga, ko te pūkenga, ko te taura ki ngā tauira. Tēnei te awhinuku, te awhirangi no te pūororo I o matua kore. E puia e ia te take ue nuku I ue rangi kia hohua mai te rongo kirongi ki te tipoa, kirongi ki te tāwhito, kirongi ki te kāhui o ngāriki. Kia puta tēnei hui ngā whakahirihira mō tātou. Ki te whai ao ki te ao mārama. Tūturu o whiti whakamau kia tīna.
Tīna.
Haumi e hui e.
Tai ki e. Ora.
Tuatahi rā, ka huri au, kia rātou kua whiturangi tia. Rātou haere. Haere atu rā. E mihi mahana ki te whānau e noho pani ana kei te Wairua, I te whānau, King te whānau Mortality. Mo te whiturangi tia o ngā rangatai ki ora no reira. Haere atu rā, moi maira. Ka te waho, rātou o te Wairua hoki mai kia tātou e ngā kanohi ora tēnā tātou katoa. E mihi nei, kia koutou, I te komiti I tēnei rā, mō tō koutou I tēnei kaupapa, aha ko te huringa, he mea nui, te arataki o tēnei komiti I ngā kaupapa Māori me te taio I roto I tēnei kaunihira no reira e mi kauatu ana kia koutou. Mihi hoki e toru te kaumārima te pakeke o tēnei komiti. E u ana I tēnei kaupapa he tohu tērā mo te mano anui o te mana whenua o te mataua Māui no reira tēnā koutou kato. E mihi nei.
Ora, tēnā koe.
Kia ora koutou. So thank you for joining the first, committee Māori meeting for Hawke's Bay Regional Council this We'll have the privilege of being able to guide you through the first couple of items to get to electing your chairperson. But before we get to that item, we're just going to go through apologies for our hui today. So,
Yes, ana te whaiti, mera tangi hana.
Ana te whaiti. No other apologies?
Noting the apology of Michelle McElroy.
Michelle McElroy, tēnā koe.
Larissa, what's up?
Larissa Huata, kia ora. No other apologies, so I'll just move that we accept those apologies.
Aye.
I've got a mover, kia ora Mike. Baden second, all in favour?
Aye.
Anyone against? Ko mana, kia ora. Conflict of interest, so if we have not already put in our conflicts of interest, you can send that through to our governance team or our Māori partnerships team, but are there any conflicts of interest to declare for our items today? No conflicts. Kapai will then move into our decision item, and we will lead you and support you up to the first decision item, which is our appointment of the chairperson role, and we will hand over to Nick to run that process. Kia ora.
Morena koutou, and great to be at the first Te Komiti Māori hui of the year. My pleasure to take you through item 3.1, which is the election, I understand, of co-chairs. So what I'm going to do in a second is I'll call for nominations from you for the two co-chairs. So someone to do the nomination, someone then to second those nominations, and then I'll invite the proposer and the seconder if you want to speak to the nomination, if anybody else wants to speak, and then we just take a formal vote to put the co-chairs in place. So no further ado, could I ask for nominations for two co-chairs?
I'm here to nominate Katarina Kawana.
Kia ora. Any? Rena?
Excuse me, everyone, sorry. Can I ask that someone checks the waiting room? He said he's still in the waiting room and he can't get in.
I did admit it.
Kia ora. And I just asked for a nomination and a seconder for the second co-chair.
Who'd you nominate? Katarina? I nominate Mike. Paku.
Paku
Whakako.
and Renee, thank you. Mare, Baden and Renee, would you like to speak to your nominations of the co-chairs?
Oh, well, thank you, committee. Yes, I think what we've seen over the period of time that this Māori Standing Committee has been in place and practice, that we've had both the services of a separate chair and a deputy. What we've found is that there's been great experience and benefit by adding the combination of both those two people together, locked at the hip as co-chairs. And we've heard this morning that that benefit has enabled, I guess, a lot of learning around the table. And on that basis, I think that resonated with the committee that this is subject, of course, to our rules, but the general level of acceptance around accepting both two co-chairs. So I just stand by that principle. It has worked, and we want it to continue.
Kia ora.
Yeah, I think it's important that we have people that understand the business of regional council, that have the experience, that have been sitting around the table for a number of years, and Mike and Katarina Kuopera. I note that the Minister for Local Government has come over the top and basically taken away the voice of those representatives that have had voting rights on councils. Just want that noted. Kareo whakaiana. And I have an expectation that our chairs take that kōrero to the regional council. You know, hara ia koutou te he, hara no koutou te he, but I think it's concerning that government is stepping into this space, and I think it's a total overreach. Māori representation on all councils is really important. Kei te mohi o ke mātou kua, or the Māori Awards, you know, that how that went down here. But then we had our representation on our standing committees and the opportunity to take our take to the tepu matua of our councils. And I'm just really concerned with this kāwanatanga, you know, for a number of kaupapa, but to have this week, to have standing committees lose their ability to have their vote recognised, you know, tino a wanga wanga ahau. But yeah, he mihi ana kia kōrua, hoi no, he haipapa nui, ke kaua mai nei wēnei kōrero ki te tepu matua o te regional council. But yeah, just big mihi to you both. I think, you know, we've got strong voices there. And ko te mahi mā mātou o tēnei committee is to make sure that we're talking about the right kaupapa around this table, and I'll bring that up at some other stage. You know, we're not just fed stuff that doesn't really mean much. I think with where councils are going, amalgamation, reforming, it's important that our kōrero and our voice is a part of whatever the future of local government is in Hawke's Bay. So, yeah, me waiho kōrero ki konei, but tautoko ana ia kōrua Mike, Katarina.
Kia ora, Baden. Renee, did you want to add anything?
I think just with Mike Paku's experience, knowledge of how councils work, and that historically the way the committee has worked in the past has been valuable. So yeah, happy again from Hauriri to support that.
Kia ora. Any other members wish to speak before I put it to the vote? No? In which case, the motion before you is essentially that the committee appoints Katarina Kawana and Mike Paku as co-chairs for the remainder of the 2025 to 28 term of Hawke's Bay Regional Council. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Any against? In that case, congratulations, co-chairs.
Oh, kia
And
ora.
do you wish to speak? Helena.
Ian lamahi kia kouta katoa. Hei tautoko ia māua ko Mike. Just have to kōrero to us. Be open, honest and frank with us. We're here for you. We're here to steer for you and for our communities for why we're here. And thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for having faith in us as well. And we're here to awhi in tautoko all the way to the end. Mauri ora.
Ai, kia ora tātou. Ai, he tautoko nā kōrero o tātou tuahine. Ai, tika ana i tika tai mai māua ki te tautoko, ki te api manaaki a tātou rohe o Ngāti Kānunu, Ripoata Māui, tātou waka tāki tumu. Me o tātou hapu marae hoki o tātou Takiwā. I mihi hoki ki ngā ringa raupā o tātou kauni hera, he tautoko nei, tātou mahi, me ngā councillors, he noho ai i te committee nei, no mai haramai. And just to refocus on the point that Te Kaha made in regards to the length of this committee. So it's 36 years this year that this committee has been going. As I look around the table, I'm sure there's maybe one or two that have been here for those 36 years and some that took a holiday in between all those 36 years and have returned this term. Apart from the challenges that we face in regards to the current government, there's also challenges we will face in regards to the representation of Māori and the voice of Māori and the face of Māori that will sit around our council tables, not just this particular council, but also our local TAs as well. So it's interesting times ahead of us, but at the end of the day, the mahis, I always refer to it as like rust, it never ever sleeps. It just continues, the issues just continue to keep coming forward. And I expect that will be the case in front of us. So putting aside the politics that's out there, our mahi as representatives of our, first and foremost, our Taiwhenua, our entities, our marae and hapu, still rolls on and it still continues, and it's our role and responsibility to bring those issues forward. And not only that, to be the catalyst for the Hawke's Bay Regional Council back out to our whānau. So we look forward to continuing within the roles as your two co-chairs, and I suppose as Katarina said, we both look forward to continuing in what we've established over our last term. So in our pre-meeting, Katarina talked about her development over the last 3 years, and so you'll get to see that for yourself because she'll be chairing the next meeting. So you'll be able to see that development that's taken place within Katarina and what she's picked up. So nō reira, tēnā rā koutou katoa. Nick.
Item 3.1 is concluded. I'm very happy to hand everything over to you, Chair.
Thank you. So we're going to go to item 3.2, terms of reference, confirming the terms of reference. And then following that will be the Māori Committee membership appointments. So those are the items that we'll cover off in 3.3 that we talked about earlier on in our pre-hui in regards to some movement around the representation of committee members, from members to alternates and alternates into members. just to give our councillors a bit of a heads up. So in regards to the confirmation of terms of reference, are we happy to adopt the terms of reference as they currently are, remembering that the terms of reference were actually put together by us, the committee? Thank you, Māori.
Yep.
Thank you. Kirk.
Taiwhenua, tahi anake te take, an alternate member for
3.3.
Ngāti Kaungunu.
3.3. Next one.
3.3.
Yep.
Was that next one?
Yep.
Okay. Doesn't it come into the terms of reference?
It will, once we move it. It goes back.
Well, that's the take that I'm going to put down for the terms of reference.
Chairperson, through yourself, just to add that for the second page of the TOR for the membership, I think touching on what Baden raised is that Nikki currently don't have a proxy member in the TOR.
Yep.
So it would be, I think, in this item, or if you were to add a proxy into the TOR, that you may want to look at that in this item.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I'm trying to save time here, deal with the issue.
I'm happy to move them
Yep.
pending those amendments that will come up in 3.3.
Thank you, Baden. So we've got a mover and a seconder, and we'll come back and address the point you've raised. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. So now we're moving to the membership, and there are some changes within the membership. So can we come to Tamatea first and foremost, please?
Kia ora. Yes, could I please request a change between myself and Henare Kani for him to become the Tamatea Taiwhenua representative and I become the proxy, which he has agreed to.
Hiratonga?
Mr Chairman, I'm all about future succession, and I want to put forward both Stuart and White and Ana Tawhaiki as the Taiwhenua reps.
So you're changing spaces with Stuart, Mr Stuart White?
Yes, correct.
Great improvement.
Future succession. And myself as alternate.
That's all. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Baden, in regards to Nikki, who at this stage do not have a alternate in regards to support you within the role. And as pointed out by TK, our current terms of reference doesn't give notice in regards to Nikki having that ability, given that you were added halfway through last term's tenure of this committee. So you're seeking the addition of a named alternate in regards to Nikki's representation. Nick, any comments from yourself? From an operational perspective, no issues? No. From the Chair of Hawke's Bay Regional Council, we happy? So with those changes and swapping around of the membership for kia ora, Crystal, for Tamatea, Hiratonga, and of course a named alternate for Nikki, are we happy to adopt the Māori Committee member appointments as currently named?
Can we just add somebody for Te Whanganui Auro too?
We can't do that, you have to do that
When
you're ready.
Okay.
Yep.
Can I please add Larissa Huata, formerly named as the third member of Te Whanganui Auro?
Yes.
Thank you.
Larissa Huata.
Any others? Cool, I just need a move and a seconder, please, to formally appoint that membership. Thank you, Renee. Thank you, Baden.
Yep.
All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Order.
Carried. So that's item. Now we're down to item 3.4. So this is the appointments to Hawke's Bay Regional Council committees. There are 3 committees. I'm going to hand over to the officers of Hawke's Bay Regional Council to take those through those committees, their terms of reference and the expectations of our committee members.
But do you want me to? Kia ora. Kia ora. My name's Leanne and I'm the team leader of the governance team Kia ora. So there are the three committees which we're seeking appointments from the Māori Committee to. One is the Regional Transport Committee, another is the Finance, Audit, Risk and Emergency Committee, and the final one is the Environment Committee. The terms of reference were included in the agenda pack, and I'm happy to take any questions anybody might have.
Any questions for Leanne? Just for transparency and clarity, this was one of the items that we had addressed in our pre-meeting discussions. So if you like, we have formed our nominations for each of these committees. So just to give our councillor membership understanding of how these names are just going to fly out, so you know where they actually come from, and those that are watching online. We did follow a what are we calling it?
Process of nomination?
Process of nominations, a democratic process of nominations. So in the first one for our environment, can I get nominations please for, first of all, the other part was this, sorry, and it's not, just to add to the conversation, the current references state a member from this committee. We would also like to include an alternate, so to make sure that we have representation constantly at that table. We believe it's important that there is a face representing Te iwi Māori there on a regular basis, that the alternate is named, so they're not just random strangers turning up. And they're either someone on this committee, either a member or the alternate, who have the skill sets, the required skill sets to actually fill those positions. So from that perspective, from operations in regards to the alternate, any concerns?
No, I think as long as it's someone as an alternate attached to this committee,
Yes.
then you're fine.
Councillor Sears, are you happy as that as the chair of Hawke's Bay Regional Council?
Yes, I think it's a very good idea.
Thank you.
Agreed.
We do come up with some good ideas from time to time. So with that, please, looking for the Environmental Committee, starting with Environmental.
Peter Tang will nominate Mana Apathy.
Good. Do I have a seconder for Māori? Thank you, Baden. And in regards to an alternate,
Henare?
I think Henare was looking at a,
Alternate.
yeah.
You know, who was
Kataraina.
Oh, yeah, yep.
Kataraina as the alternate.
Kataraina e mema tuarua.
Were there any other nominations, please? Thank you. I take nominations as being closed, and since we only have two nominations, one for the member and one for the alternate. I declare that those are our elected members. Ka pai? So we're moving along to audit and risk and emergency. Okay, that's the official term. Once again, I'm looking for a nomination in regards to the member. Once again, looking at the skill sets that are required. And the other one is the alternate. So, member, please.
Peter Tanga will nominate Kerry Rupia.
Thank you. And for the alternate?
I will nominate Renee for the alternate.
Thank you. Were there any other nominations? If not, I declare those two nominations accepted. One is the member and one is the alternate. And the other one was in regards to Hawke's Bay Transport. Regional Committee. Yeah. Once again, we are looking for a member and an alternate.
Tamatea nominates Hinari Kani.
Kia ora, Henare, and an alternate, please.
Laurel nominates Stuart.
Stuart White.
Stuart White.
Were there any other nominations? Thank you. I declare those two as being the elected member and the alternate. Once again, now in our Transport Committee, we realised the importance of having a representative that represented the outlying areas, given the fact that they don't really have access to public transport. And we felt it was timely that we have a representative at that committee from those, representing those committees and voicing those concerns forward. Tēnā koe Paula. With that concludes the nominations to our three subcommittees. They are the committees, council committees.
Council committees. Bye. Just got, you've got the chair to the regional council. You as chair and Katarina.
Yes. So you want those formally? Because we are the co-chairs. It sits on the terms of reference.
Yep.
I think just for public information, so as the two co-chairs by the support of regional council and the councillors, we sit at the Hawke's Bay Regional Council table representing this committee, but do so without the ability of a vote, which we accept. Although we may have some reservations around that, we understand the terms of references in regards to our presence at that table. And we're grateful for the fact that we are there and have the ability to voice the concerns of our committee and our community. So we thank the council for that. And did you want to move to your report and that of the chair?
Yeah. Okay. Do you just want to formally move those?
They have been moved, haven't they?
Oh, sorry, I missed that bit.
They have been moved, haven't they?
That together would be good.
A formal, so our secretary would like a formal to accept all nominations and appointments in regards to the three standing committees standing committees of Hawke's Bay Regional Council. Can I get a move in a second, please? Thank you, Kirk, and thank you. Henare.
Yeah.
Pōmana. Pōmana? Aye. Kia ora.
Chair, moving, I think you've asked to insert an item at number 4, just a CE report, so happy to do that. There's an awful lot of mahi underway, and so I might just outline 3 or 4 topics, and then if the committee wants to dive into them in a bit more detail, we can do that. First one, obviously, simplifying local government is ahead of us, and I just thought it would be useful to outline for the committee a couple of things where the process is at, but also the role of the regional council, which is slightly different to the role of the territorial authorities over the next few months. So the government announced formally on the 5th of May a policy position, there is no legislation at this point, to encourage local government to reorganise itself, and the government was pushing essentially towards unitary authorities for regions, whether those were a single unitary or multiple, yet to be clear. And by unitary authority, what I mean essentially is a council that has the functions of a regional council and the functions of the territorial authorities. So bringing together the worlds of councils. And the government set out 2 pathways for that to occur. The first one, which government has called Head Start, a region has between now and the 9th of August to submit at a very high level a proposition to government, which Cabinet will then consider, and the Cabinet will make a decision before the general election on whether it thinks a region is in the right place to go ahead with developing the detail of a Head Start proposal. Again, no legislation at this point, just a policy position from government. The alternative for regions is that the region doesn't have a Head Start proposal in place and has to wait for government policy and legislation to occur late 2027, 2028, all providing that the current government and the current coalition carries on post the general election. So timeframes are really compressed, and it means that everything is happening. You're kind of building the plane and flying it at the same time. The role of the regional council is slightly different to the role of the territorial authorities. So a regional council cannot propose a new model for local government in Te Matua Māori. It has to come from two or more of the territorial authorities with a significant proportion of the population. So the regional council's role in the reorganisation process, at this point anyway, is more one of support and looking to ensure that those critical functions that relate to Taiwhenua, and particularly around flood protection, water security, and the health of our land and water, find their place into whatever new structure occurs. None of us quite know what happens if a Head Start proposal is accepted by government, but at that point, essentially the however many councils of Hawke's Bay are involved, are on a pathway to some kind of amalgamation. So in terms of engagement and with mana whenua, but also more widely with the community, at this point that is really being run through the territorial authorities, because they are the decision makers as to whether the region goes ahead with a Head Start process. So really happy to share information with this committee, but realising that the vote, if you like, lies with the TAs at this point. So that's a very broad piece on where local government reform is going. I think uppermost in the discussions that Chair Sophie has led with Council have been those things that are the underpinning and foundation of Hawke's Bay are really critical to find their place in whatever the new world of councils looks like. So 80% of us living behind some kind of flood protection, our social, cultural and economic future dependent on water, and what the health of our land and rivers being critical to the future resilience of Te Matua Māori being top of mind for council in any transition process. And it may be in future agendas through you co-chairs that if we're heading into a Head Start process, you want to think about how those discussions might be influenced from this tepu. Do you want me to go topic by topic or stop?
You want us to give us an opportunity?
Yeah.
Can I come to you first, Baden?
So I guess the pātai is that as a result of regional council not playing a part in the reform, that comes down into committees like this, not having the mana to contribute to what that shapes up. I guess that's my question.
I think there's possibly two levels. So one, there's a influence. So the regional council will sit at the governance process with the mayors and chairs, and the regional council entered an MOU, or formally passed its desire to enter an MOU with all the other councils this morning, and it also sits at this CE's table and a staff table. So whilst the regional council is not a decision maker on going forward with the Head Start process, it's intimately involved with the discussions ahead. So I think there's ample opportunity to reflect the views of this table into those processes. And I guess this is probably the only place where, alongside the RPC, we end up with the region all together. So it's a useful place to share information on the specifics of Head Start proposals. You're then probably going to need to go back to your mayors and use them as the primary vehicle for influence at that point. I think all bets are off then once we get, if the region enters Head Start, essentially everybody's on an equal playing field again, and we await to see what government says there. So yeah, I think the discussions you have here are still valuable.
Most of us have relationships with the TLAs, but how does the mahi of the regional council make its way to the minds of the mayors? Big kaupapa. There's So
the chair of the regional council sits with the mayors. I sit with the CEs, and I've got a group manager sitting at the staff table. So we are well represented there as a regional council. I think the other thing that is heartening for me is that since November, the government has recognised in its latest proposition that the functions of regional councils are really critical, and that any proposal to government has to work out how do we deal with catchment management, how do we deal with te taiao, how do we deal with transport and flood protection, and they don't want to see those things carved up into little pieces and then they become unimportant. And certainly my conversations with my CE colleagues, they are looking for the advice from the regional council as to how do we look after these functions in the future.
So the mayors, TLA mayors, I mean, there's nothing stopping them from bringing the regional council unofficially into the tent and, being part of those discussions.
No, in fact, they've formally done it. So the councils are all considering this week an MOU between the councils about how they work together. The regional council supported that MOU this morning, and the mayors and CEs are already supportive of the regional council's involvement. We just don't get to vote on the proposal.
Okay. Did you want to add anything, Sophie?
Kia ora, Chair, maybe at the end, if there's more conversation and questions, maybe at the end. Thank you.
Can I just come through to our various areas and how it's playing out in our local locations and our local takiwās? This conversation around potential collaboration. Waiatai? We know your mayor has been quite forthright in his opinion.
Sorry, I missed that, Mike. We were stuck in a conversation before.
So it's just in regards to the conversations around local territorial authorities, collaborating, forming one local territorial authority, or what a combination of that may be. How is that affected or impacting on our Māori community on Waiatai?
They're going to be in Waiatai.
Yep.
The committee going to be in Waiatai.
We don't know.
Probably not.
Probably not, yeah.
But a big impact.
It's a huge impact.
Yeah.
We're bad enough now.
Kind of looking forward to more conversations with the council. That's not been forthcoming at the moment. It's a bit of a worry, considering, all the infrastructure that we have to deal with, and very low rate base, isolation.
Ahuriri?
Yes, for us, it's created a little bit of uncertainty, what that looks like in the future and what that means for Māori, not just for Ahuriri, but as a whole. So how do we all work together? And then secondly, I guess from the Hawke's Bay Regional Council, how do we then ensure that this mahi continues in this term, but also going forward? So yeah, saying to the kaupapa too, trying to ensure that we're getting mahi done, but also, that level of uncertainty, what does that look like? And I guess that's the uncomfortable part, is that we just don't know right now. So, yeah. keen to hear a lot more, have a lot more kōrero, but yeah, ngā mihi.
Hora, did you want to comment yourself?
I'll leave it to these ones now in the end. They're closer to the ground than I am. So I believe what Renee's just said is uncertainty is the big stamp that people are feeling at the moment.
Yeah, this may be a little bit irrelevant, but also our rōpū of Ngā Manukunuku o Te Iwi, who sit next to the Napier City Council, have put in a proposal that we're like in a partnership. And so that goes goes to vote next month, at the end of next month. So we're really not so much hoping, because hope doesn't really give us much, that we actually do get to have a relationship with them. You know, we contribute to the economy here. We know we're not only mana whenua, but we're hoping that we get to have a say for our people too. So it goes before the voting next month.
Heretaunga?
Well, Mr Chairman, the mind boggles with all of this push that's currently going on with the political landscape. But unitary authorities operating around the country, being subservient to kind of get the TAs. You know, when you consider partnership, just seems to be the word going down across a number of different levels, including Māoridom. I'm grateful to know that we've got a good working relationship with our district council as we speak, and having to join, I guess, each other up at the hip needs to happen too as well. And just coming from our chief executive, how you guys are under the pump too as well. You got some really tight timeframes, but for ourselves at Heretaunga, like I say, the devil in the detail is still yet to kind of emerge. Interesting to hear that the MOU was signed off today. So I hope that does kind of promote a real equal opportunity of partnership and what the contribution around TAs and of course regional council.
Tamatea?
Kia ora, Nick.
I'll speak after Hinari.
Kia ora, Nick. Ka mata kāinga tahi, ka ora kāinga rua. We are faced with different events every day, and I guess as our mana whenua in this area, we prepare ourselves to manage our lives with what's happening around us. So that's really the attitude, rather than and we're building on that in our area. I guess that's all I really want to say, but thank you, Nick, for outlining everything to you.
Any further comments from Tamatea?
I just wanted to follow on from Hinari. I know the district council are coming out to Porangahau tomorrow to present whatever they're presenting to our hapu. I watched the hui this morning for the MOU. Didn't realise that was what was happening, but once I got into it, I was a little bit excited by that, to know what's happening, and that our councils are coming together in that way and talking. We don't actually get a lot of feedback in our community. We have a lot of engagement from regional council because of the stop banks. That engagement and communication from regional council has been really outstanding right throughout the project. And it's a shame to say that we do not get the same from our district council. At times we are quite left behind, especially in Porangahau. We are at the end of the rohe, so being the bottom of the Takiwā isn't always helpful, but hopefully we will see improvements of that when council come out to have a hui tomorrow.
That's about to change. That's about to change because we're developing relationships. That's part of our kāinga rua. Ka ora kāinga rua is developing those relationships with the local body as well.
Any other comments from Tamatea? Did you want to comment? Yeah.
Kia ora, through you, Chair. Chair, if it's all right, I might take a moment to introduce myself.
Yep.
Perhaps, and then also Councillor Kuklinski, who will not be familiar, I don't think, to many here. So, Māori ora tātou, ko Sophie Sears, tōku ingoa. I'm the councillor here for Heretaunga, which includes Havelock North Hastings and Flaxmere, and I'm also the current chair of Regional Council. Been on this committee this last term as well, and before that was on Hastings District Council. It's also part of the Māori committee there, so I'm well aware of the quality relationships there. And of course, one of my first committees was on the Tangata Whenua Wastewater Committee with Māori. So I got an early induction into an early education into what a committee of that could look like. I'm originally from Wellington, and I moved here over 30 years ago to Waimarama. I always say ko Waimarama te tūranga waiwai. When I came over the hill there, I always felt that I'd somehow arrived home, and we have been able to leave since. So we live right under Hakakino, actually. It's a really special place. I do want to make a few comments, Mike, because I think it's very easy to feel separate and excluded through this process. And I think that the setup that the government brought about in this process has created senses of isolation and deliberate separation from our TAs. I do want to acknowledge that the mayors, this is very much their decision and their process and their direction for their communities as to how they would like to consider amalgamation. And that's a space that I believe we need to be very respectful of, separate of the government's view of that. They are leading those conversations with their communities right now and talking amongst themselves alongside us where they feel that we're appropriate in that. I note Te Kaha, as you say, this is, I think, the longest standing Māori committee in New Zealand. We have long and respectful and established relationships. Our RPC committee is incredibly close to us. I speak to the chair of that committee weekly almost. I would hate for there to be any implication that this organisation is not already strongly, respectfully and committed to the relationships that we've had over decades. Our Māori partnerships team is one of the largest in New Zealand, actually, talking to other regional chairs. It's exceptional. The relationships we have there are enduring and strong. And I wouldn't want there to be any implication that there is a lack of information or engagement or connection between us, because it exists in all of our work streams. I see it every day. I see it in every paper. I see it in all the mahi that we're doing. And I pick up your comment, Chair, around the mahi. Actually, what we are committed to and what our councillors are committed to is from the top of the hills, from the top of the mountain, the land there, the precious land there that's being washed off the hills into our hours, down the stream, damaging our riverbeds, damaging the ability to restore our aquifers, the plantings, the stop banks, all of that mahi is about our whole community's desire for safety, care and environmental protection. And that is across every person in Hawke's Bay. There's not one person in Hawke's Bay that doesn't agree with how much that matters to them. And however those conversations happen, our councillors, and I hope Councillor Kuklinski will speak a little to it as well when he introduces himself, is very, very clear that that work will sit at the forefront of everything that we speak of with all our partners and all our community. So I don't see this fear, as Mare says, unitaries have existed a long time, and in fact this newest announcement from government I think is a much better position for us. It is saying you will create unitaries, and by doing that they have made sure in fact that our work will stay together. Before that there was opportunities for all sorts of moving and shaping and shuffling functions around. So I do think we're actually in a very strong position, and I acknowledge the four mayors who are all incredibly positive, incredibly engaged, and I speak to regularly for their role in making sure that our voice is strong at the table as well. So I hope that it brings also a level of comfort, because we feel very similar to this committee as a council. We feel that we are slightly outside, and I think for us it's a big step in taking the trust of the Mayor's commitment to us that they know how much this work matters and that they will work with us in that good faith way. So, kia ora tātou. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Hokianga, and then I'll...
Ka pai kia ora tātou. Ia i ki ngā kōrero, tipi nuku, tipi rangi, tipi whenua, tipi haha, i roto i ngā whakaaro nui o ēnei āhuatanga kua pūke, piko hia nei e tātou te rohe, hori rapa i te rohe o ka ngunu, tēnei anō ngā whakaaro kua puta ake nei, nā mātou, ngā kaikaunihira Māori, o te mātaua Māui. Just quickly to reiterate some of the commentary that Chair of the Regional Council, Councillor Sears has put forward. I think to note our position on it is not one that we would, that I mentioned this morning, that I wasn't overly joyed that we were somewhat excluded in the ability to make submissions on the Head Start, but we respect the space and place of our mayors across our region. We gave our support to the MOU as a framework to which the discussions of what things look like moving forward was going to look like. So we are behind that, in support of that MOU and the process that we are going to have to jump on board with along the way. But as a part of that, we wanted to make sure in the discussions this morning that we were to vividly show our support for the interests of mana whenua, of tangata whenua, being an explicit part of some of the priority in the conversation. And part of that looked like being able to, I guess, support any type of consultation process that needs to happen, given the time constraints and the time pressures, for us to be able to get that mana whenua and tangata whenua voices forward. So, kia ora tātou.
Yeah, I feel slightly dropped in it here by Sophie. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Pleasure.
And an apology from me, Chair. I wasn't excluding Councillor Hokianga. I made the assumption that everyone knew him, so apologies.
Tony Kuklinski. I grew up as a dairy farmer's son in Taranaki, so I've had half a life in Taranaki and half a life in Hawke's Bay. I did horticulture at Massey, so that was my background, and I've always been into soils and organics. The cropping industry is what brought me to Hawke's Bay as Mike Glazebrook's organic biogrow cropping manager back in the day. I'm a practical, common sense sort of guy who wanting just great outcomes with our core regional council activities. And so I fully support what we're currently doing. I think they're really important. Reducing the flood risk, supporting water security and promoting land and water health. For these core things, I consider three pillars that are very important. I'm absolutely useless as far as language goes. I married a school teacher many moons ago who just likes to correct me. But I'm over 50, and so it's not really a goer. I'll stick to other things, I think. I'm the deputy on the Environmental Committee with Di Roadley, and obviously I'm going to learn plenty sitting here, I imagine. Hope I can be of use to you. And I'm looking for, and yes, we've been put in a tight spot as far as passing what we passed this morning. I think we have to see it a different way. We're going to have to see it as an opportunity to improve the outcomes for Hawke's Bay. And so if we go into it with that sort of attitude, then maybe we'll get some success. Thank you.
Kia ora.
I think it's most funny for myself. At our induction, we spoke about the need to have a workshop, especially with regards to our relationship with our Regional Planning Committee. And how do we, if you like, strengthen that relationship between us? And as part of that is determining the roles of both those committees going forward in regards to this council. I think, if you like, that conversation has kind of moved up in regards to the breadth of that conversation. It goes beyond us, beyond the two committees that are based around this committee, and actually goes to the other standing committees that are associated to our local territorial authorities, and the impact that potential collaboration is going to have on that. I think the thing that will not change is our relationship to the environment, regardless what the political situations look like at a local level or at a national level. To have a healthy community, you need to have a healthy environment. They go hand in hand with each other. And whatever those political structures end up looking like at the end of the day, it's not going to remove the responsibility of whoever sits in those roles to ensure that our environment is taken care of. I certainly don't envy those who find themselves in those having to lead those conversations. These are going to be huge, important conversations for the whole of the community. So not just us as tangata whenua, but us as also as ratepayers. So we're just as interested as ratepayers as well as mana whenua, because the promise is this will help control rate rises and make it more affordable. As they say, the proof is in the pudding. For some of us who have lived a significant number of years, we kind of see that the promise doesn't always live up to the reality that we end up facing. But I certainly agree with your comments, Baden. It's really important that the councils, our local territorial authorities, engage with mana whenua at the earliest possible moment. And now the fact that we've got our, we've got our MOU in place, that we'll start to see that unfold. And once again, not only for mana whenua, but also for our wider community, because we're all interested. Yeah. And we all have opinions at the end of the day. Nick, you want to go to your next kaupapa?
If you're happy, I can carry on, Chair. I don't know how long you want me to talk.
I'm sure that was the easy item you had to deal with.
And my only footnote to that is Te Kupenga, so that's the network of Māori partnership staff across all of the councils, are doing some mahi at the moment to put together a map, if you like, of all of the intersects for councils with either treaty legislation or with statutory documents, mana whakahonua rohi, MOUs, etc. Because when we come to the next stage, if we come to the next stage of amalgamations, I'm thinking it'll be of particular interest to this committee that you can have a look at that mapping and work out how is that going to land, and what do you need to advocate for in any new structure. So I'll ask Tawarama once she's back and well to maybe bring something to this committee around that.
I just think through you, Chairs, we've just got to be careful that we're not kind of picked off individually in terms of our different hats that we wear. There's going to be a unitary council. It's important that we all kind of together, you know what I mean? To pick the north off from the south, the middle, or different organisations that we're part of. So I've been waiting to hear from someone about something in Karakia kia pera. Yeah. So yeah.
They might have lost your number, mate.
Kia tere mai. Running out of time.
Back to you.
Through you, co-chairs. The other issue I was going to touch on, resource management change, obviously ahead of us. As you'll know, the government is replacing the RMA, which is really the foundation of this, of a lot of the work of this council, with two new pieces of legislation around spatial planning and natural environment. As part of that, the Ministry for the Environment ceases to exist in the next, or I think already has ceased to exist, and has been replaced by a thing called MCERT, the Ministry for Cities, Environment, Regions and Transport, I think, if I've got that right. So we are expecting the Select Committee, which has heard submissions on RM replacement, including submissions from the RPC and from this council to report back to Parliament probably the end of June, early July. And that it's not just a tweak to the RMA, it's a fundamental change to the way that whole system and process works. So ahead of this region is from the point at which that gets royal assent. The region will have 18 months to 2 years to produce a regional spatial plan. I think worth noting that a regional spatial plan sounds, it's a really important thing to do. It sounds big and new. Actually, in 18 months, what we're going to be doing is putting together existing information and consolidating it into one place. I think the government is going to say, nah, no new information to be included. So all the mahi that's been done around natural hazards, around te taiao, around iwi and hapu management plans, etc. Sorry, I missed.
Flood modelling.
And flood modelling will feed into that process. So again, we're slightly in that waiting period for the new legislation to appear. And maybe coming back to things more directly on the ground. Cyclone recovery continues, and really pleased to say that all of the projects that were funded by a mixture of rates and central government around flood protection are now all into either construction, and Te Wairoa is into early enabling works, but there's a bit more detailed design work to go there. But Porongahau and Pakowhai are now into their construction phase, and I'm looking forward to soon be able to sign off the movement of those communities from 2C back to a normal world. Waiheke recently opened that flood protection there around a kilometre new of Stockbank. The first part of Ohiti is now largely complete, but I think the community have said they'd like a formal opening in the spring. So we will look to have a formal opening there in the spring. Whiranaki, the stop bank in front of Pohutakawa Drive and the raising of the State Highway 2 is now largely complete, and there's some industrial work to be done there. So good to see that $250 million investment in future resilience, and I think resilience for communities that have never had any in the past being put in place. And thank you, Kelly, for your kind words about the engagement in Porongahau. So yeah, big job underway there. I think the last thing I'd touch on, Chair, is we've changed our model for looking after land with Council's blessing, land management, and one of the things that's been part of that is to put our pole sales for erosion control online and to make it as cheap and simple as possible for landowners to buy them. And that's gone really well, and we've had massive demand and interest this year. And then I think finally we look forward to now what looks as though it's going to be a supercharged El Nino is going to look like, and there will be some science advice coming on some of the potential implications of a really tough El Nino over the next 12 months, although none of us can quite predict what arise out of those systems. So, Chair, happy to leave it there. I'm conscious I've taken up a lot of the committee's time.
Chair, can I have it confirmed that construction of Waipawa has begun? Because
I will have to check for you, Councillor. I know the consent was going through its process, so the enabling pieces of all roads is done, I think.
Yes.
Well, I'm not sure that the stop bank piece has actually started yet.
Can I go back to the RMA reforms? Can I ask those that are our committee members that are active within our environmental space, especially around the RMA, if they'd like to pass comments? So I start with our newly appointed representative to the Environmental Committee, followed by our alternate.
Well, Mr Chairman, you know, we've seen, I guess, the fast-track provisions as they've started to kind of step up. Basically, you know, the abrogation of our treaty rights and values, and even some of the environmental standards that you would expect, in my view, and probably many others, have been lowered. So, you know, that's a detriment in terms of the role that functionality that will be ahead of us. We're still analysing both the acts of the spatial planning and natural environment, and we believe in our analysis that there's going to be space for us to actually focus on some really key moving changes that are unfortunately, you know, get stepped up against us in that space, but as a consequence that it's still going to charge on ahead. Unfortunately, we've got to fit in, which is a bit of a detriment. Apart from that, I think, if anything, that we're facing right at this point in time, some of the new provisions of the fast track, I mean, that's starting to mirror basically what the spatial and the environment, planning environment, natural environment is going to, you know, we're going to be confronted by quite a bit of that. And I make a point too that you did raise, Mr Chairman, earlier on. You know, the environment for us in terms of Te Ao Māori is very much in step with the well-being of both the environment and, of course, with people. With the economic priorities that are curtailed, particularly buried within these particular two new pieces of reforms that have been proposed, there's quite a major lessening of that. And so, you know, I know that there's going to be, as we were talking this morning, about the person that's going to be getting onto the Environment Committee, that representation about having a waha to actually stand by the very principles that we as, Te Ao Māori will be confronted with. It's going to be certainly a challenge. But I stand in good stead to know that my tipuna, my uncles and aunties have been confronting this issue from the get-go of the Treaty of Waitangi, and I think that we've got to stand by the principle, stand by the intent of Te Tiriti of Waitangi, and that's going to be at the very forefront. I'm just putting everyone on notice because I know that that's going to be a head-to-head, toe-to-toe, kanohi kitia, and of course having to walk shoulder to shoulder with each other, because as we've just demonstrated today, what's important is relationships, what's important is partnerships, and certainly the central government is certainly throwing the baby out of the bath, and it's just making that a little bit more challenging.
Kataraina? Before we come up to you, Crystal, we'll come to Kataraina and then we'll come to you, Crystal. Kataraina?
It's hard to follow on after Māori. Yeah, you have to be a particular type of person to bloom and do this kind of mahi. I look at Papatūānuku and how we're trying to help her, and we're stripping things away from her. So when you take away legislation and little bits of, little tools away from the hammer and nails away from us, it just becomes really, like Mare said, you know, really difficult to be in the space. But yeah, we're resilient. Blessed that we woke up today to even come here today. Yeah, that key thing is keep talking, keep being honest, keep fronting up each day. You know, I want to see our people in 100 years. I want to see our people still striving, still being able to breathe in some fresh air, to eat some nice food, and to be able to talk to each other respectfully. And I'm hoping that they're still speaking Te Reo Māori and, you know, and bilingual still then. I'm going to leave it at that and leave it for our tamatia whānau to follow up, finish off for us. Mauri ora.
Kia ora, Crystal.
Tēnā tātou. Yeah, it is quite hard to follow on from what Uncle Mare had mentioned and everything. on behalf of tamatea, everything that Uncle Mare mentioned, we're probably in that same predicament. I think some of the, there's a lot of challenges among this, but at the same time, to be very honest, in the current status of the RMA, we're challenged as well. So, it's just looking at how we adapt. I think one of the things is the limited clarity around Māori participation and our te tiriti obligations and how that would be embedded. I think one of the, for me, is the risk that our local knowledge, our own local knowledge systems could be lost in this transition. It's probably a bit whakahihi of me, but for tamatea, we will do what tamatea has to do. Regardless of any legislations, we are currently building the critical mass among our communities and understanding of the importance of taiao. Like what was mentioned, a healthy taiao means healthy people, but those are just words, and we need to be able to get our whānau on board to really understand the true context of that, and that is being in good relationship with our taiao. So, there are a lot of issues that currently sit at the moment within tamatea. There's this narrative, and I'm just going to mention it now, but there's this narrative that that there is that we don't have enough water security. And I'm going to be very honest and frank that with our regional council and the over allocation of our groundwater, this is why the water security exists within our tamatea region. And so I'm hoping that within this committee, as a collective, that, we do move together, that we do take on the challenges that we are facing within our particular region. I mean, even listening to the whole context around territorial authority, like that's a bit of a, nudge in the Māori ego. But, I just hope that we are able to sit and really intentionally deliberate on some of the challenges that we are facing, and hopefully all the pukenga within this room can help support each other on, how we fulfill the aspirations of our people, because that's why we are here. We are here on behalf of our tipuna, we are here on behalf of our hapu and our marae. And so, I hope that I can learn more from all the different pukenga that sits at this table, and be able to articulate ourselves better when, when these decisions or our voices are put at the decision-making table. Kia ora.
Kia ora. I would say you're not just a tauira at this table, you're also a kaioko at this table, because we can also learn from you. So ngā mihi kia koe, Crystal. Were there any other questions for our CEO in regards to his report?
Have we put in a submission to oppose the RMA changes? Because, the biggest change for me is to no longer give effect to or to whakahonore chia te tiriti o Waitangi. It's just to, what is it? Take account of. No, it's weak. It's weak. So basically they can overlook anything that...
With regard to.
Yeah. I think it's even weaker than that. But so I think there's some major issues with the reform, especially that one.
Submission.
That means that they don't have to talk to us. They can think about it, but don't do anything about it. They don't have to inform us. They don't have to consult with us, and they don't really have to think about the impacts on taiao from a whakaaro Māori point of view.
Through you, Chair, there were two submissions, and one was an RPC submission and was very focused on upholding what had been negotiated in terms of the treaty settlement and the existence of the RPC. And the other one was from council as a whole, and it certainly picked up on the matters that you've just expressed, Baden, as well as a whole range of technical issues with the legislation. if at any point this committee wants a copy of those, happy to provide them.
Mr Chair, just a couple of comments and to support what Baden's saying is that I guess the RMA is probably the most complex piece of legislation that we have to wrangle with at regional council level. But it's clear through those proposed changes that it's shifting from giving effect to the principles of the treaty to that merely just recognising them. And I think that that submission that the RPC put forward was strong in that. But the bottom line is that it's a legal weakening of the government's obligation to the rights and interests of Māori. I think further to that, and I'm glad you mentioned that the RPC's submission, because I think also in the RMA it restricts or confines that commitment to the post-settlement entities, as opposed to going a little bit further and into, I guess, into hapu without the PSG structure or Māori landowners. And in my role as a Māori ward councillor, is that I'm quite broad in that in terms of Māori communities. So I just want to put that on the table there.
Total. I think this committee should have put one in, or should from here on in be very vocal about that, because we cover off all our communities, hapu and marae. Yep, the PSGs can put their take in too. But I think, yeah, because it's so far-reaching. If you do that type of a weakening, that's right at the strategic level of the RMA, and then that comes right down to every, the work of the council and the work of communities. So yeah, this is one of 19 acts that have done that. So yeah. I think we need to be very, very clear in our opposition to it, because it's going to impact us right across our communities.
Thank you, Ben. Any other kōrero in regards to our CEO's report? Update? Māori?
No, but I just want to make one final comment with regards to that Spatial Planning Act and draw down particularly to the individual land rights that David Seymour's been pushing. I brought up at our earlier planning committee, if we looked at the catchment of Karamu where there was a social impact assessment undertaken back in the day of the tank, what it recorded was a 70% turnover of ratepayers in the Karamu district. You know, whether you come out of town to do up a property, it gets a nice value, has an impact on us ratepayers, and whether they go and buy another property within the same catchment or hive off. You know, these are the sorts of things that are going to impact on us, not only as Māori, because we're the constant in amongst that, the 30 or the 20 to 30%. And of course, the impact there is around rates. So, yeah, there's a catch cry in all of this in terms of now the swing is now starting to palpate individual land rights. And I know that that's not going to go down too well in our reckoning. I just wanted to curtail that.
Anything else? I think my final comments would be, although we are seeing a lot of change make its way onto the table and how it can affect us in our various roles and positions, whether it's back at that marae hapu level, or then the entities that we sit with, or at a iwi or just being iwi Māori. I think the thing for me that's the most important is that as mana whenua, despite all these changes, we will still be here. We are the one constants throughout all of these changes. Is that mana whenua remains, and our values and our beliefs remain the same, because they are principled at the end of the day, and we hold tight to our principles, our values, and our cultural frameworks. And so those are the things that we take forward within these various changes, noting that we have over the last millennia seen numbers of changes, and we have dealt with them all and will continue to deal with them all. We understand that we may not have or get the outcomes that we wish, but in saying that, we will not let go of what our principles and our beliefs are. So although we may lose the battle, we're here for the duration, the war, as someone would say, and so we will continue to push those things forward, regardless of whatever government policies, statutes come forth. We will always maintain our mana motuhake. Sophie, before we go for lunch, I note that you're part of this report.
Well, I think I've probably spoken.
Oh, sorry, Kerry, I didn't see your hand.
Oh, thank you. I just had a quick question. I just wanted to address the point that Baden raised around this committee should at times be putting forward submissions to changes of legislation. While I agree with that, I just wanted to ask, if this committee did decide to do that at any stage, is there funding and resources for our members to be able to do that? And I'm raising this because it's become an issue on a couple of the boards I sit on that are ministerial appointments, where we are expected to write the submissions but not be paid for the many hours it takes to do all of that mahi. And more often it's happening around our Māori tables, and so I'm just wanting to, one, ensure that though there is resourcing for us to do that, and two, if there isn't, that we are not putting our people in that same position.
Kia ora. Through you, Chair, the servicing of the committee essentially is done by the staff of the organisation. So if there's a request from the committee, I just have to juggle it with the other requests coming down coming down the line and work out how do we deal with it. So we don't have a specific pot of putia. It's a staff role.
That's how it's been managed in the past. So the committee has raised its points of views, what it wants to see transition within those submissions. A draft is drawn up internally from our Māori partnership team and is circulated to the members, and approval is sought from that at that time. And prior to there's approval, then it goes in from the committee.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, through you, the Chair. I mean, Chairs, it's not so much. ChatGPT writes all our submissions these days anyway. The main thing is that it's got the mana of this committee, and it's noted. We've got Taiwhenua here, we've got iwi here, and we've got Māori councillors here. That's the main thing, and they don't have to be long, fully researched out things. I can write, get ChatGPT to put one up.
Kia ora, baby. Sophie, across to you.
Kia ora, thanks, Chair. I think I spoke enough probably earlier, and look, the Chief Executive's covered all our work streams. Probably just to pick up on that last point though, this committee wasn't set up earlier in our training, but certainly both the RM reform submissions would have come through this committee for endorsement, and I think that would be the way to just make sure any of the submissions we're making are passed through here so they can be endorsed both at RPC and full council and Māori committee level probably is the way to do that. So no, nothing more to add, Chairs. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions in regards to the Chair's report before we break for lunch? So I see there's 4 biscuits up there.
There is lunch. Lunch is there. Yes, it is. Cut them into.
Oh, well, you know, hard times there, Mike. Budgets are getting cut and all that. No.
So we're gonna break for lunch. We're gonna take a half an hour.
Okay.
We'll come back to the table at 1:05. For those that are online, so please take a break, grab a cup of drink, cup of tea or coffee, and we'll be back here at 1:30. Kirk, if I could finally know, can I just pull up our
Wai, ka kia tātou. Anau mai ina hua e hora nei o te wā nui o tāne o te Napier, te wai Māori ngā tāne. Nā rongo nā tangaro nānau, ko rangi nui te matua. Ko papatua i kutu whaia, tūturu o whakapuki maua, kia tīna.
Tīna.
Auni e hui.
Kia ora tātou. Kōrere tātou. So Nathan, we're coming up to item 4.2. Tātou koro e pānga ki Tuna. He tino kaupapa tino hira hira. Tino a kāhua hoki, kia mātou hoki. Tātou ki. So, ka huri taraka ki a koe.
Thank you, Chair. Through you. Tēnā koutou katoa, e te rangatira, ko Nathan Heath tōku ingoa. I'm the Māori Relationship Manager in Northern Hawke's Bay. I'll let Ariana introduce herself.
Kia ora, ko Ariana tōku ingoa. I'm a freshwater scientist here in the environmental science team at HBRC.
And I would also like to acknowledge Pete Gilmert, who was unable to make it today, but is a core part of the work that's been done on behalf of the Waiatai, work that we've been doing there. I'd also like to acknowledge Katarina and Adrian and Michelle, who have been really actively involved in this kaupapa right from the start, from the day that it was brought to our attention, and have been very committed to the cause. Before I start, I'd just like to pass on apologies on behalf of Te Wairo Ta Pokoro Whanui Trust. We got a call late last night. They were very keen to bring their Taio Hapu Kahui management plan to the committee, but unfortunately they had a number of drop out at the last minute, but they very much, very keen to bring that report to the committee as soon as they can. Just to basically, we'll assume the paper has been read. I'll do a bit of scene setting, but through my 14 years of experience in regional councils, I've learned a long time ago that you'd much rather hear from a scientist than me. So I'll let plenty of room for Ari to talk about the what actually happened and the why, and then I'll close with a little bit of where we're at now and some of the lessons that we've learned. So just press down. Yep. For those of you that don't know, the Waiatai Valley is really just out of Wairau. It's just once you get down the Te Ui Hill on the way towards Gisborne, it's first turn on your left, it's literally 5 minutes out of town. The valley extends for a long way up there, actually it goes for another 8 to 10 kilometres. A very narrow valley, very responsive to rainfall events, floods very easily. Some pretty good flats in between the valley sides, and it ultimately drains into Ohoia station. So there is a lot of water that comes through that area. Just to give you a bit of a scene setting of the area that we're talking about, the catchment's approximately 100 hectares. It's predominantly forested. There are some intensive grazing areas at the lower end. You're looking at the wetland itself in that image. It's a large area. It's approximately 6 hectares of wet area. Not all of it is wetland vegetation, but a good chunk of it, and it waxes and wanes in its volume throughout the year, depending on summer conditions. That's looking downstream. That is the Hikunui stream that drains the Hikunui wetland into the Waiatai stream. Just to make one important part of this equation, I think Ariana will probably talk about it a bit more, was the weather that preceded this event. In Wairau, we'd had, I think, 4 months of below average rainfall. We had some really high temperatures, plus 30 degrees, peaking at 35 degrees leading up to this event. And then what sort of triggered it was 2 big storm events that led to a lot of the water in that wetland area flowing down into the Waiatai stream. I think one of the anecdotal reports from one of the local farmers was they had 180 mils in less than 24 hours, which did lead to a lot of the problems that we saw occur afterwards. Obviously, this was the impact of all of that. Quite a devastating impact on Tuna. We don't really have an accurate idea of how many in total were impacted, but we would assume more than a couple of hundred, that's for sure. So yeah, that was brought to our attention on the 12th of January, and like Katarina and Adrian and Michelle were some of the first people on scene, walking up and down and capturing the impact of the event on the Tuna. The reports that we received were of the death of Tuna, but also the appearance of an oily slick on the water surface, a smell that a number thought was like diesel or petrochemicals, and tea-coloured water. And you can sort of see in the images there that occurring. The reason I raised this was there was an opinion earlier on that this was the result of a diesel spill, and one of the actions that was taken to prevent that from entering into the Waiatai any further was a bund was put in place to block off the Higanui outlet into that area. And that ultimately became quite a point of contention that led to, I suppose, a heightening of anxieties and tensions in the community around how that area was managed. What ultimately happened is, with that blocked off, the landowners involved were pretty adamant until we had confirmation that it wasn't a pollution event, that was not to be removed. We were happy to abide by that because we didn't know any better at the time ourselves. But it obviously led to flooding upstream of that area, and a little bit of farmland was starting to flood. So there was a lot of pressure on doing something about that bund and removing that to alleviate the problems of that. The great work that Ari and the science team did indicated that the water above that culvert was not improving either. It was in the same state that had caused the problem in the first instance, which led to quite a comprehensive bit of work around investigating options for reintroducing it, working very closely with the landowners involved, who are under a lot of pressure from multiple sides to take action, but we worked closely with them to help navigate how do we choose probably the best of a worst option, for want of a better word, to reintroduce that water back into the Waiatai. Just reiterating, it became very politically open. Lots of people took attention to what was going on. It received a lot of national coverage. There were a lot of interviews on television. Reading through a few of the Facebook posts, they were quite extensive. There were lots of opinions being bandied around as to what was causing the problem. But just acknowledging that, the significance of the event in itself, the impact on a taonga species in Waiatai, definitely so. And yeah, it definitely raised the concern of many people in that area. I'll pass this on to Ariana, and she'll give you a bit more detail around what was the causes and also.
Yeah, thanks, Nathan. So the initial investigation was led by our pollution response team and treated as a potential pollution event. And so water samples were taken from 3 sites up in the area, one being the Ikanui stream, and then 2 from the Waiatai itself, both upstream and downstream of the Ikanui. Alongside that, we sent an eel away for autopsy, which unfortunately was too desiccated at the time, but that's not uncommon. They desiccate quite quickly, especially with the really warm end temperatures at the time. So because this was being treated as a potential pollution event, our sampling suite was really broad and included petroleum hydrocarbons and oil and grease and some of the other organic indicators, which would help us narrow it down. As Nathan touched on, there were some extreme weather events that led up to this event that I want to highlight. So there was an intense rainfall event about a week or so earlier, and that 117 mils is from the Waiatai township itself, so it doesn't actually highlight what happened in that valley. In that time, the Waiatai Valley and the stream was inundated with floodwater, and that also inundated the Ikanui wetland with flood material from adjacent banks, farmland, hillsides. And then what followed that was about a week of prolonged really high air temperatures, around 30 degrees, and then one really cranking hot day, which got up to about 35 degrees. So during that flood, there's a mobilisation of organic material that then works its way into the streams and the wetland. So from our water samples that we sent away, we got quite a firm answer that there was no evidence of petroleum, hydrocarbon or oil and grease. We did some spot measurements for dissolved oxygen, both in the Ikanui stream and the Waiatai, and they were very low. So that's down to 0.17 milligrams or 1.9% saturation. And just for a bit of a proxy, we expect a healthy freshwater ecosystem to be about 80% oxygen or higher. So that's really low. Alongside this, the pH of the water was slightly acidic, 6.2, where we expect upwards around 7. And even though that doesn't seem like too much of a decrease in pH, under those conditions, paired with that really low oxygen, you have mobilization of things stored in the sediments which can become toxic to fish. So the pollution response team helped us identify that the Ikanui stream and the Ikanui wetland were the primary source for the event. Which was also in the samples coming from the Ikanui stream, we found elevated iron and magnesium, which are those kind of things that are mobilized under low oxygen conditions. So coming around to why did this happen? I think it was a really extreme event that culminated from the intense rainfall, followed by the really intense heat that kind of got everything in that stream, the microbes working over time, and the wetland itself wasn't able to cope. They break down the material in the stream. That's a natural process, but the oxygen being used by those microbes to break that material down decreased the oxygen in the stream so much that it had adverse effects. So Nathan also mentioned this occurrence of the organic sheen that we saw on the water, and that was an organic sheen, and it is common that we see when these microbes are breaking down organic material. They create kind of a sheen on the surface layer on the water that's kind of fats and lipids and things like that, and it is quite distinct from a petroleum sheen, which is more swirly and iridescent. So normally wetlands can cope with these kind of processes, and they buffer to these kind of extremes and low oxygen, and they meant to do that, but this was a really extreme event for this wetland, pushed by those really hot days and that rainfall. So why did the fish die? I think it was probably an unfortunate event of a combination of all of the things I've listed here. So low oxygen probably was the primary driver, as it was near zero. But tuna can be quite resilient to low oxygen, so it's probably an addition of the elevated CO2 and respiratory distress. Also the low pH, which can affect their gill function, and the increased toxicity from those dissolved metals, which I highlighted earlier. And potentially there were some things happening there that happened really quick within the water column that we didn't get, which is ammonia and sulfide, can also be toxic to fish.
Good.
Yeah. Sulfide.
Right. So we actually held a hui with the community just to go back with the information that Ariana's just presented. We got a great turnout. You'll see some people there that you know reasonably well. The outcome of that meeting was an enthusiasm by that community to actually do something going forward, to work together to improve potentially the management of the wetland, but also to look at what could happen in the upper catchment to help the cause as well. We sort of, I suppose, first of all, some of the key lessons that we learned from this, we certainly know a lot more about what's termed black water. I think that's the word that's used now for those hypoxic events that are causing these sorts of things. We certainly know a lot more about identifying a black water event earlier, some of the field observations like the oily sheen, the water, those sorts of things. So we've got a better idea now if this happens. Fair to say at the time, we didn't know what we were dealing with. We had a suspicion, but until that was confirmed, that we're stuck with that assumption. We suspect that there is a risk that this could happen again, with warming climates, changing weather patterns, those sorts of things. There is a potential risk that it could happen again in the Waiatai Valley, but it could also happen elsewhere in the region as well. We certainly, through the work, were able to, and the great work of the science team, were able to identify what the main drivers were, what the issues were, those sorts of things, and which also enabled us to start thinking about what could be done to prevent it from happening again. I think we've now got a better idea of how to manage these processes going forward if it does happen again. There are ways and means to be able to test and sample and get information back earlier, but one of the things that might be worth pursuing, not necessarily through us, but some of the local community action groups is having people being able to respond early to save what could be saved before things are lost. So that's something that we would like to see continue. In terms of next steps, we're actually in a bit of a holding position now. I think from the community's perspective, there were two things that we believe probably would help the cause in terms of decision making, what to happen next. And one is what form, shape, design would need to occur in the wetland to be able to minimise this from happening again. And the second one was the bund that was put in blocked a one-way valve, and the one-way valve was put into the culvert, basically to prevent flooding from running upstream. So it shut the flow of water out of the Hikanui when the Waiatai was in flood, and once it dropped down a bit, it enabled the water to flow down. So that basically just, rather than being a diluting effect, it led to sort of bulk flows of the contaminated water down there. So investigating the options as to what might be done in that space to enable a greater dilution of the water. Definitely some relationship building is going to be required. There is the basis of a strong community group in that area, but there are some very polarised opinions within that would need some pretty good navigation around and some coffee and tea and closed doors to help broker the next steps. So basically, where we're at, we're in a hold and wait. Basically, we're in the hands of the community to help us drive any direction going forward. We are very resource and time limited, obviously, and there are some really high-level themes coming in all of this. I think we've been talking about this as committees in terms of the future of councils and where this sort of work might sit in the future. So we're basically just, this is where we're at, this is what we know, and we're hoping to get a bit more of a steer from not just our own council, but also the community. They need to come together to drive this because they're the only ones that are going to be there guaranteed long term in the future. So that was our brief presentation. Happy to take any questions.
So based on that, can we come to Waiatai first, please? Hear from them, because they're the other party in this. Adrian, whoever.
Do you want to know?
So, from your perspective, Waitai's perspective, the community's perspective, your feedback or input.
I think it comes back to a couple of things here. It is those weather events, and then our bar being opened all the time, letting that water out, and it's closed. Then along came the heat, and the water was low because at that time there was no need to open the bar. So whoever's on this open the bar committee, they need to really get back to us first, because so we lost all of that. We've lost the whole wheeling season this year, and now I'm running low on omega-3, and my health and well-being is not at its best. Well, because the wrong was in the kai, as we know, and in the water. The Hikanui itself, that part of it was the only part of a contaminated river or stream. The Waiatai itself, there was no thing, but nothing, all in that one drain. I suppose it's a drain now, and up in that, whatever's in that wetland. Whether it's regional council's tests don't say it's chemical or anything like that. It's come down to what, black water and no oxygen. But as we know, you can dig eels out of the drain and leave them in the stock bank for months and months and months, and they'll crawl out when you dig it up again. So I don't know whether they got more oxygen than the one in the water, but so yeah, and other things, maybe more well, if someone's lost chemicals or whatever over their land and into the water, we can't do nothing about that. You know, because it's not going to come up in a test if someone else is, from what I hear, someone else is covering their tracks or something. There might be a lot of cup of teas and sprinkles to get over a lot of things. And, yeah, so, but I suppose it's happened, and we've got to maybe work out how we're not going to let it happen again. Really not much we can do about it now, but, well, not much in terms of it's happened, but there's a bit we can do about it in terms of prevention, preventing it happening again.
Katarana, anything to add?
Not really, you know, because I'm there for the our restoration side of things and really wanted the mana whenua and the actual landowners to contribute to their own solutions. And, you know, the tuna's really resilient and it's really up there in the, you know, in our, as an attribute for freshwater. And to see, you know, 70 to 80-year-old tuna, you know, it was more than 200. Just where I was standing, and there was still like 5 kilometres to go. There was 200 just in front of me. And now I'm not over-exaggerating. I could have put a drone up and we went for a long way. But like Adrian was saying, whoever's opening up the bar, they need to talk with the locals because that actually drains them out. So it actually pulls 15 kilometres of water towards Ohuia, which was pristine and clean. That was our biggest worry, was to ruin another wetland full of good tuna. But it had to make, the water had to make its way to the ocean. So yeah, we just had to accept. And yeah, so it's quite hard for our whānau to accept that it's just black water. And we witnessed the events, the extreme rain and the extreme heat. That definitely happened. But why doesn't that happen all over the country? And why is it just the little stream there? So it made our people question, you sure it wasn't oil, Katarina? So, you know, yeah, so we tried not to go out there with any comms like that and was just waiting back for the information. To me, with my own eyes, but I don't have 3 or 4 eyes, it looked oily to me. But yeah, I get it, tuna oily, I get that. And I understand the process of composting and organics. Yeah, I was hoping that it would pick up more in the science of things. And you're right, it was hard, like I went down with Adrian to pick up some tuna. But yeah, I ended up having to have a bucket and I was reaching all the time. I couldn't do too much to see what was wrong. They were dead, totally dead. And it looked like they'd been in the water for a little bit longer. So I got there maybe a day late, too late. And with 35 degrees, too harsh. Yep, like Adrian says, you know, there was a big season for our people to miss out on, and I really feel for the hapu there that didn't really get a mention. And yeah, all we can do is really sit down with our farmers and the people to build our next steps. And what I heard on the day was, let's get planting. As far as the eye could see, I didn't see a plant in the blooming thing, and it was all straight, no meandering in the streams and drains. And for tuna, you know, all they want is some shade and a little bit of kai. Yeah, better management. So a bit of a learning for us. It's sad that we have to see deaths to actually make things happen. You know, if we were to make money, if that was salmon, what would you have done? You know, if that was like king salmon, would you have reacted quicker? You know, we have to think about these things. This is a lifetime kai for everyone. And if you haven't tasted tuna, it's like salmon. Man, you haven't eaten it right then. But it is our rongoa.
Better.
It is our rongoa. Yeah. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you for bringing this to us. Thank you for the ecologists that did the mahi. You came to see us, and that was important. But keep coming to see us. Yeah, thank you. I think we really need a plan to look after the next 10 years, what we could do to help that catchment out. They're calling out and they want to help. And even the farmers, they know what they need to do too. But yeah, next cup of tea, who's that on?
Sprinkles. Tony, can I come to see your hand?
What were the two, you said iron and did you say magnesium?
Iron.
That were the two.
The two metals.
Two metals that were elevated levels.
Yeah, iron and aluminium. Manganese was as well, but don't have included.
Iron and aluminium. Okay, right. Okay. Yeah, I know just through soil science that iron, availability increases as you become more acidic. Okay, thank you.
Same with aluminium.
Cheers.
So
That was acid.
So the finding of aluminium in that particular waterway, was that considered to be unusual?
No, these compounds are present in soils all the time, or generally, but it's the low oxygen conditions which mobilises them to the water itself and makes them available. Yeah, so it's that combination of the low oxygen which then release them from the sediment.
Any other? Thank you.
Probably more of a comment at this stage than a question. Is that right, Chair? Thank you for the presentation, and I do really want to acknowledge the Wairoa whānau. I know how deeply distressing it was, and in fact, I had an interview talking offline with them before. They talked about people all around New Zealand seeing that, and I think it's such a picture of the conversations we're having around the taking without giving. We see it's the canary in the mine, really, far beyond it, but it's such a picture, and I think that's why it hits us so deeply. And I do want to really be clear about acknowledging the staff in this. I was actually in Māori at the time in the evening, and poor Nathan had banging on his door at 9 o'clock at night, and he was out those evenings, and I really want to acknowledge your great concern and the work you put into this, and also, Nick, your calls immediately afterwards and asking the team to be there as quickly as you could and to test far beyond the usual testing that would happen in this instance, because it was really important to understand if it was a pollution event. So for me, it's a real picture of this terrible intersect between a regional council that looks to restore and help, also in their role as regulator, and your incredible professionalism in all of that testing work. And then actually the pathway forward, which I think you really allude to really well, or you speak to really well in the paper, Nathan, actually the way that landowners and our communities come together to find solutions to this actually is the really big question and the challenging question, because we know we can't do it certainly off rates or certainly from one organisation. So I just think it's a perfect example of all those things coming together actually very well within a really tragic situation. So yeah, a big thank you to our staff and to Jack Te Warama and the Māori Partnerships team as well. Kia ora.
Crystal?
Yeah, tēnā tātou. Just a big mihi to Katarina and Adrian, and nui te aroha kia koutou, ngā hapu o Wairoa. Yeah, that was really mamae to hear, especially when it comes to our food source. But I do have a pātai sorry, is it Michelle? Aroha mai. Or, the water...
Ecologist.
Sorry. Yeah. I actually have a pātai because when you mentioned, why the fish or the tuna died, it was kind of like a roundabout way. So, you think that this is the cause of death, and it could have been because. My pātai is, at what point do you actually investigate further to find the true cause of why the tuna died?
Yeah, I think that's my science speak coming through a little bit, where I don't want to prescribe anything, and I go on likelihoods. So the evidence that I had available from our testing points me to the conclusion that it's the most likely cause. I can't think of anything else that we could have done. We tried the eel autopsy, which, if it had been a contamination event or some other form of death, would have pointed us in that direction. But the water samples were the best tool that we had available. So it is, once again, very likely that it was the cause. But I just like to not say that I know, because I'm not sure what I don't know.
Through you, Chair.
Sorry.
We did spend a lot of time on the ground too.
Yes,
We walked,
Kilometres.
yeah, even I walked quite a long way around that wetland. The catchment team sent drones up, the pollution team walked up and down the stream looking for potential sources of contamination. So we weren't just relying on the science results, we spent a lot of time on the ground trying to find any potential source of contamination in that area.
So just going back, to with the autopsies that were carried out, are you saying nothing was found within that bodywork
Yeah,
that contributed to?
the eels were too desiccated to undergo autopsy.
Yep.
I will also add that we did some follow-up investigations where we deployed continuous dissolved oxygen loggers in the stream for a few months afterwards. So we were continuously logging how the oxygen was recovering in both the Ikanui and the Waiatai. And then in April, the team went out and did some fish surveys to see how the fish community had recovered. And in the Waiatai, they found reasonable amount of longfin and shortfin eel and also some common bully, which was great to see. So it hasn't stopped there for us in terms of our commitment to understanding what went on, and I probably should have mentioned those things. Yeah.
Crystal, got any further questions?
Yeah, just to Katarina and Adrian, just a partai, like, you know, how do you feel being on the ground in this mahi? Like, how do you feel this process has gone and where it's landed?
I don't think it's landed yet, it's still all it's here. Well, I suppose it's ki tō mātou nei, e taonga tuku iho, mai kia mātou te tuna. Ei he rongoa. E te rewe tonu ngā kōro o tātou nei mātua tīpuna, pāna ki ora tāua tango ngā tuna. Ora tuna kei roto te Waiatai, e heki iho rā ki te moana. Kia te kōro mātou nei, te waro, te tuna paiuka. Waiatai atu kōro, tātara kau ki te kōpua, e hākura ki te māhia. E tino kai mō mātou. O waiatai atu ka ngaro atu te taonga nei, well, e tino mamai ki. E patungi atu ngāka, patungi atu hina ngaro. Au e taukiri e kei weke a mātou. It's, yeah. Suppose, only with us working together, I suppose we can come up with some sort of a solution to fix. If it works there, it could work everywhere else. Plus, for me, I think the main contaminants of the deaths were only in the Hikinui itself, not in the Waiatai. But because of once the Waiwori Tuna was opened and then the Rere Te Waiti Te Moana, well, it opened that cold bit, which brought out those tuna might have been already dead before they went in there, as they're coming out. But because it all looked like from down our end was dead tuna that had floated down, not actually died at in the different parts along from the Waiatai down to Kairangi, Kōpua, and up to the Waiwori Tuna. It could have been worse because the part going to the Moana where they opened the bar, that's a diverted awa now. They were all once lakes. They joined Kōpua Lake to the Waihuri Tuna Lake to drain the Waiatai Valley to the sea for farming, I suppose. That once went through Ohoia down to Iwitia. Hence that Hikinui is the youngest of the 7 whales, got left behind up the Waiatai and the rest went out at Whakaki. So if it went down that way any further, well, we might have been Whakaki Nuerue and Iwitia sitting right here. Would have complained. More people in impoverished situation from not having any tuna. But I'm laughing about it, but it's really no joke.
Kia ora. Kia ora, Adrian. Ki te pai?
Ai, mihi ana kia kōrua. Kei te rongo au i o koutou mamai. And, I guess it's just for giving the opportunity like that. It's not just us just listening to a report and then moving on to the next agenda topic, but just reimagining the table and enabling these conversations to take place. But kia ora.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Nick, I'll come to you before I go over to Tony.
Oh, just acknowledging that everything that happened. I think the other thing that we'll need to be conscious of is that as we see our climate changing, these events are occurring around the country, and I've seen them in other awa as a result of high summer temperatures in particular and low oxygen. So the more collectively we can encourage shading and planting and suitable management of wetlands, the better we are in terms of resilience to those future events, which we will see again in terms of high temperatures, etc.
Tony.
Our Wairua colleagues mentioned solutions before. I was just wondering what would happen if we added calcium carbonate to the water, limestone.
Carbonate.
Calcium carbonate.
Yeah, limestone. If you actually put a pile of limestone in the water, you would make it less acidic. So therefore, the two metals would become less available.
Yeah, I'd have to take some time to think about that. When I think about possible restoration options or possible ways forward in terms of the in-stream ecology, I think that doing things like riparian planting to buffer those extreme temperatures would do a lot. I think that ensuring waterways have good connection for flow would be a big improvement. Those are the things that spring to mind for me. I'd have to look into the calcium carbonate aspect. Thank you.
The refuge.
Yeah. And just, the providing refuge for fish to be able to, or tuna to be able to tuck themselves away in these extreme weather events or be able to escape and find a healthier waterway would have been really important in this situation.
We look forward to following the developments of the engagement between yourselves and whānau, back in Waiatai. The other part is just echoing the kōrero of our rangatira over here in regards to tuna play a central part within our lives, especially those that have that association with tuna on that daily basis. It supplements their diet. You wouldn't believe he's 80 years old. And the other part there is this cultural relationship that it has with us, not only at a cultural level, but at a whakapapa level. And hence, if you like, the importance and the interest that we take in regards to such matters as this. This is not the first time that Hawke's Bay Regional Council has found that we've seen depletion of tuna due to environmental or management tools taking place, which has led to the death of tuna. But I do give credence to the fact that I've seen Hawke's Bay Regional Council learn from those events and actually improve on their management and on their supporting the environment in regards to being able to provide the best environment for our taonga. I think tuku iho. So yes, we do look forward. So it's something we will follow up with in regards to wanting to keep track of this, and particularly around the learnings. I think it's around the learnings, not only for our Waiatai whānau, but for ourselves as well, and other parts of the rohe. Kia ora tātou. So thank you. Kei te pai?
Thanks.
Yeah, kia ora. Yes, thank you, Ariana, and to Nath, thank you very much. And could our Waiatai whānau also please make sure that this stays on the agenda?
Thank you. Yes.
Kia ora. And I think we're up to the Takiwā reports. I'm going to start with our two historical members, Heretonga and Waiatai. Before we go to our younger members.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just caught me on the hop. I forgot where I stuck my notes on this thing. But for Heretonga, I think it's important to know that there's been significant changes that are also going on around ourselves and the relationships that we have with each other. Tamatia Pōkai Whenua, for example. And of course, we've been in this transitional mode as we underpin some of the environmental oversight and of course now probably warranted a little bit more, of course, is supporting each other, capability to get capacity in-house along with our Ngāti Kahungana iwi whānau too as well. More importantly, just to say that the Marae Kākoho tūpore is now back on the agenda, and so probably Regional Council, you'll be under the terms of the resource consent, being notified by Marae Kākoho Gravel tūpore that they will be commencing the gravel extraction out at Marae Kākoho. And just to say that we're an unwilling participant, but because we've been forced by the Environment Protection Agency as we took to the High Court to appeal that, we've got to show a bit of good faith and goodwill, sit across the table, but we'll see how all of that unfolds. So there's quite an extensive role that the Regional Council and its oversight in managing the resource consent, along with the mana whenua, sitting pretty much locked at each other's hip. Probably the other, I forgot what the other matter was. We've got the Hastings District Council stormwater consent that's going through your planners and your consent team at the moment. I was just recording to Madam Chair that I think it represents quite an innovative best practice approach. One, in terms of ensuring that, these long-term processes, notwithstanding everything else that's going on in this changing world, needs to, I think anyway, where there's that interface of mātauranga Māori and Western science, and that you do come up with innovative approaches, whether that's going to be in the decision realm or even in the operational engineering aspect. I think that's something that we're looking forward to when your team get to assess that, and we're probably looking forward to that. Stand alongside my district council colleagues. Stuart, anything on your radar?
Just a couple of things just around the transport kaupapa. I noticed when the transport plan was released by the council, there was a lot of saturation in marketing promoting those new routes, but it seems to have dried up. I just wonder whether it would be worthwhile revisiting marketing of those new routes, especially to our whānau that are socially, economically challenged, and our communities around Heretonga, and we do have a bus stop at the Taiwhenua now, so that's great. Note that the bus stop hasn't been painted, but I digress. And just a governance kaupapa, I just want to share with everybody that our Heretonga Taiwhenua has created a rangatahi board, and just an invitation actually to our other Takiwā here, that perhaps there's an interesting opportunity for us to collaborate with our rangatahi. Given your reference, Mr. Chair, about our historical elements of our representation here today, bringing our rangatahi into these spaces in a governance setting would be a good kaupapa for us to follow up. So just putting it out there, if there's any interest. Kia ora.
Yep. And Māori, any mention around tank given it, as we've been...
Oh, geez, we just had a little bit of a... Well, we're all waiting with bated breath, I guess, given the circumstances that are ahead of us. Probably, I did have something right here, but I probably tend to think that, it's been a long haul, 14 years in totality, or 13 and a half, more recently with the appeal that's taken place. But what, seems to be a little bit up in the air at the moment for me is around the outcome that is now, I think the Environment Court have certainly directed council along on a number of different inquiries that were meant to have been undertaken sort of towards the late end of last year, and it's 7 months later. Look forward to finding, I guess, a little bit of steadway in this, given that there's so much uncertainty that's ahead of us. I do think that it's premised on what could have happened 14 years ago, putting up the major issues of both water allocation and water quality. And for some reason, they just got to be those ones, the hardest issues to be kind of at the end of the agenda. And of course, what have we come to? The very issues that we should have been focusing and doing a little bit of drill down on are the most important issues that are confronting ourselves today. So, yeah, let's just see how things unfold, Mr. Chairman.
Cool. Can I come to Waiatai, please?
I'll do a little covering. So just recently, so not too long ago, Waiatai District Council applied for consenting for 35 years, and part of that consenting was for mana whenua to, well, we took them to court with, along with Nikki, thank you, to put into the conditions around Māori monitoring about removing mortuary waste. So being able to address the mortuary waste just recently. Really proud of our council. It took them 15 years, but at least they've given it a go. They found a piece of whenua that took a long time, and actually working with the community to take them on the journey, storytell with them, to just show them the worldviews and how we can work together to look after our biological waste, and also looking at how we treat our tūpāpaku into the future, and also talking and sitting down and building relationships with our undertakers around, you know, how the Māori worldview to dealing with waste, including wastewater. So leading into the wastewater was also ticked off. But also that took 10 years to get some disinfection into our water, just another level of caring before it's discharged to our awa. So those are the two ones I've been really working on, while also listening to our community around the flood mitigation and the options to to create our own flooding resilience around Waiatai. That's been complex because it's not just one particular isolated area. We're also concerned around the bar opening and closing. Along the way for coming from Waiatai this morning, both, you know, Kaz and I were talking about the dredging of the water. Why do all this mahi if you can't open up the channels? So can't be just isolated. So lots of conversations going on, even our own people holding themselves up, aroha mai to them. But that's why you need to have more cup of teas. So what else is happening in our taiao space? Like I said earlier, sitting down and having those early conversations with our council. Craig's been really warm to having that corridor, but we're still waiting on the council to actually sit down, talk about drinking water and the quality of drinking water. So we've tried wastewater, mortuary waste, now we're getting into the real stuff, te mana o te wai. So we're practising putting it to action from the community, not just politically, bringing the community with us to hold our council to account around the quality of our water. So that's what I've been working on around the taiao space. Would you like to add anything else?
I suppose with just going on from country is taiao space and not the wai. We're not well. When I used to come here before with Bill and old Fred, we used to, I said, I don't know why we go to those meetings there, Bill. All the problems are down the bay about no water. We're right up here with our water tank up Waikaramoana there, so you know we're not in the sort of the same situation in terms of lack of water. But hey, anyone can have all the water they like. If it's contaminated, it's no good.
Yeah.
So good that Katarina's on the job there, keeping on the council's toes anyway, about cleaning up our waterways and doing the things like the mortuary waste. But I think that's more education of our own people on the direction that we're going with the likes of tūpāpaku and whatnot, whether we're embalming or not embalming or whatever you like. But still, there's going to be always going to be some waste that other people, not everyone going to go down the same path. But I suppose in Waiatai, one of the biggest issues for people in Waiatai is when things are happening in certain places, it's not going back to the mana whenua. Council's not working directly with mana whenua. They might be making contact with our exchange office, but they're not putting the call to the right place. I mean, tātou. They don't rule us. They're only the office. Hey, I suppose councils, like to say, have to realise that, that office is only where they take all the messages to hand to the right people. Hey, and so that council, like Nathan, they come and talk to the people, the mana whenua. And we don't take that sort of thing too well, really. We needing double the amount of cup of teas and sprinkles. Just because someone's not going to the right people, or someone else is. Katarina's standing down my end of the river and they're talking to her and not me. Or I'm standing up her end of the river telling them all this and that, and it really should be her. Hey.
And I'm telling them too, yeah. Go back to Adrian.
So if the council's doing those things right, that's a good start for our people to be walking side by side to fix whatever we need to be fixing in our regions. And I suppose, well, we've had a few issues lately, last couple of weeks. We've had a couple of ate mori, and I don't know whether that's anything to do with the spillways and all that sort of carry on. Because those two young fellows went back to the same urupa that had a little bit to do with the spillway. And and then, like Katarina says, a lot of us are thinking, we're digging a $70 million drain that we're not concentrating at the end of the bottle and clearing that. I tell you, if we had from a lot of our people think is that the Bar River needs dredging to a position on the beach where we're going to make a bar. And once that's done and keep that open, a lot less than a $70 million drain that we don't even know is going to work. But if you're there in Gabriel, or even Bowler, once the bar opened, there's the end of it. Flood's gone. Even if it's raining as hard as it was, and the bar's open, no one worries. And the bar's not open, even I gave them to take anxiety pills there. But that's the situation people are in now. But hey, I reckon they should just pay someone $10,000 a month to keep the bar open. That'll take us $70 million a long way. But we're gonna dig a drain that we don't even know is gonna work. It's sort of put a bit of raru in the community, split some people, and just causing a bit of trouble, really. But anyway.
Kia ora iho. Ami, come here. Paul, anything from you?
Yes, I've got a little bit to say. I just want to carry on from where Adrian left off, if I don't mind. Well done, Adrian. I'm pleased to hear you speak like that because I've been pushing that barrow around here for a little while. Hey, Nick.
Hi, Paul.
And I'm sure Nick's sick of hearing about it, but you're hearing it from somebody else now. So anyway, Kahanunu Executive Trust is who I work for and represent. They continue to support the iwi of Te Wairau in terms of health and housing services. Recently, we had a strengthening of our management numbers. We managed to get some more people involved at a time when people's time is so precious that you can't get any volunteers to come to your meetings. We've had a big strengthening, and our management committee's been strengthened, and our Māori executive committee's been strengthened also. So it's very pleasing. There's a lot happening in the world of health. It's difficult to navigate the minefield of the health system. We're at the mercy of them, and we manage that pretty well because we seem to do all right. We're currently looking at building a new building, so that's a bit of excitement for all of us. That's way in the future. Kia ora.
Coming to ahuriri.
Tēnā tātou. I know our Taiwhenua or ahuriri would like to hear our feedback from this hui. But yeah, I mean, our Taiwhenua is busy, but also we work closely, as I said before, with Ngā Manukunuku o Te Iwi and our Napier City councillors. And at the end of the day, it's about our partnership, but it takes two to tango. They don't owe us anything. I just feel like that we need to get involved. And just going on by what Matua Stu talked about, a young having a young future councillors. I think it's very important to listen to our young ones because there is a saying, kids should be seen and not heard. But how are we going to learn if we don't listen to them? So I tautoko that whakaaro, and I think might be a couple of weeks there was a young committee actually. Not quite sure what our mayor had said. Well, it's only just on speculation on what's been said in the paper, but that's where it's good to have that direct kānuhi ki te kānuhi, have that relationship, a face-to-face. And being fair, what does fair mean? I'm not quite sure. We all do know what fair means. But yeah, Renee and I will take our, what we've had here today, take it back to our Taiwhenua so they're able to have an input and we can bring it back to this table here. But we're so grateful and honoured to sit next to you, all of these. Kia ora tātou.
Renee, anything?
I guess just a comment from me, and I guess themes throughout is the importance of our taonga tuku iwi and ensuring that the priorities are discussed, and how we do that is something that we need to work on. But also the importance of relationships, not just as a reactive, I guess, thing similar to the Tuna, but ensuring that we have all those relationships at every level. And highlighting again, I will comment on something, I guess, from Pētane's perspective in terms of the Whirinaki project, because I know it's happening with the regional council, is that level of communication right down to hapu marae level is awesome to see too. So I guess it's just how we navigate a communication framework with everyone who participates. But ngā mihi koutou for having us here today, and look forward to working with you into the future.
I want to go to Tamatea and then back to Baden. Tamatea. I'll start with the youngest.
Tēnā tātou. Everyone's gone, so I guess I'll share some of what we've been up to. So currently we've got the I'll start with the little stuff first. The second reservoir. So we are currently in the process of geotech drilling. So there's going to be another second water reserve tank that's going to be put in between Waipukuro and Waipawa, and that's currently underway. Probably the big mahi will start at the end of the year, but at the moment they're just doing some geotech drilling, just testing some of the sediment and the rock. So that's underway at the moment. But one of the priority areas that we've been on is the dam. So as many of you are aware about the Tuki water storage scheme and damming up the Makaroro. So that's kind of been quite a high-level project for a lot of us working in the Taiwhenua. There's been an ohu that have been working quite vigilantly over the last couple of weeks in terms of the dock land swap that's up on the fast track table. So we've been putting in submissions from our marae. So our marae were mentioned in regards to that dock land swap. And so we've managed to get submissions from our marae that they don't agree to the dock land swap. Also, I think there's just been, there has been discussions in terms of the consents, the resource consents that have been extended. I think, our biggest concern is that those consents were granted years ago under different circumstances. And there's a whole shift that's happened in our Taiwhenua since those consents were done years ago. So that's been a topic of discussion. I think in hindsight, there needs to be a better relationship and more transparency with our settlement trust and our mana whenua and our marae. We are currently looking at how we are going to monitor up at the Makaroro. So we are putting together an ohu to start monitoring the Makaroro. I don't know if anyone's actually been up the Makaroro. It's actually a beautiful place. But when we were last up there, we had discovered a lot of past sites. There's a lot of cultural history up there. There was an urupa that was found as we were walking along the awa. So there's kind of a lot of disconnection in terms of kōrero and decisions that are happening at the table. So all in all, we are against the dam, and to frame it as, this high need of water storage and water security is kind of, it's not tika. And, we have to go back to root causes of why our catchment is struggling with water, and a lot of that is because of the over allocation of why. A couple of years ago, we were in the environmental court for the tranche 2, protecting our groundwater, and our aquifer can't recharge at the pace of what the extraction is happening at the moment. So those are the conversations that we're having with our whānau, and one of our biggest goals is we want to be very transparent around ensuring that education is fundamental to helping our whānau understand what's happening, but also the consequences. If this was to go ahead, there's a whole list of consequences that will affect our whānau, but most importantly, that will actually affect the generations when we are no longer here. And so, what does it look like to be a good ancestor, and how do we have these critical conversations to ensure that, we are still looking after our taiao, that we are whakapono, to our taiao. Sometimes I just don't understand when we can, we talk about our taiao and whai kōrero and karanga and all these different beautiful settings of te ao Māori, and sometimes we sit at the decision-making table and just agree without really recognising those consequences. So that's some of the kaupapa. I'll hand it over to Kerry to talk about some of the flood protection monitoring and other kaupapa that's been happening in our region.
Oh, kia ora, Crystal, that was really awesome. And just so you all know, at the table, Crystal and I touched base a couple of weeks ago because the water security is back on the table. It's become huge. There was a lot of commentary around the dock land swap. And our group for Tamatea Pōkau Whenua got on a call the other day. We noted that our submission was not made public. Neither was another submission that was put in, and so I did start receiving phone calls about our submission, and so my response was, when I see our submission go public, then I might answer questions. But to be getting calls about the content of our submission and the content of another submission when ours weren't publicly available, I didn't think was fair to do that. So I actually haven't responded to those groups that were asking for those responses. And I've let our chair and other people know in our Mana Whenua working group that this has been happening. And I think it's become a target for me to receive the questions because I'm on the Tuki Water Security Project team. I'm there as an observer. And so it has made things quite awkward. But what I wanted to do was for Crystal and I to be able to talk with our respective groups, because what we're after is to now come out. It's time, it's way over time actually, that Tamatea Pōkau Whenua made those connections with our marae hapu whānau and came here and had those hard conversations, because everybody's been waiting for a long time. And so in lieu of that, other things have started happening which have been really positive, like the flood monitoring, the cultural monitoring that's been going on in Porangaho with the stock banks. All of that has been an amazing opportunity for whānau, for our tile specialists, for people to come through and shine in a space where they don't usually get to do that. So it's been really nice to have those opportunities opened up to our whānau and hapu to be involved in those, and to feed back to our whānau about what happens in those cultural monitoring roles. And we've had 3 in Porangaho, which was fabulous because we started out with 1, and when Regional Council recognised through people talking about it that we needed more, they enabled that to happen. And so that was part of the thanks I was giving earlier to Regional Council around your engagement and comms with our people, because we've not had opportunities like that, especially to be part of the team. We've been invited to talk about it, but to actually hold the roles has been something quite special, I feel, particularly in Porangaho. So I want to say thanks for that, and now it's happening in Waiatai. And so the enablement of our people to be able to put their mātauranga into practice and what we practice in our own waterways has been of huge benefit to us, and it will be for our rangatahi as we start to hold wānanga and teach them about these and have presentations back to them about what it means to be in this space. So huge privilege that was met for us in that way. And I just wanted to touch on, Henari messaged me to say sorry he had to go, he's catching a flight. But he just asked me to say the Taiwhenua had a hui last night, and their 2 big kaupapa that they have at the moment, they decided last night, was to build on their relationship with our district council and also to build on the relationships with marae. At the moment we have a delegate and an alternate that attend the Taiwhenua hui, but it hasn't been, well, in my 2.5 years since I moved into town, we've not had the Taiwhenua come out to us. And so I guess that will be part of them building the relationships, I hope. We look to do the same thing with Pōkau Whenua, to start coming out to marae and building those relationships and listening to people from the ground up, which is something we haven't practiced. And I teach this in my class for Māori governance. You can't have values written into your papers and into your code of conduct if you don't practice those. So I'm on about us starting to practice what is written in our values. And so we'll be reaching out to do that, particularly around the water security issues.
Just through you, through the chairs, and for Tamatea, can you confirm that we've got the signing of the accord tomorrow, please?
Yes, that is tomorrow. It starts at 9 a.m. The whole day does run through till about 3 p.m. But yes, the signing of the accord is at 9 a.m. Are you coming, Thompson?
Yes, myself and Tony will be present.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, lovely.
Tony's bringing the cheque.
Oh, awesome.
I'm not asking for it.
Kia ora tātou. Our team have been busy working with Taiwhenua And good to hear the outcome up in Te Waiatai. It's a long, long time overdue. Hoi no, ko tutuki I roto ngā mahi, ngā mahi nui a koutou. Yeah, we opposed the land swap. So our submission is very clear. Kaere mātou te whakai, ki tērā whakawhitinga whenua, for a number of reasons, and yeah, you can read that, it's public. Interesting enough, the day we put that submission in, we got a whole lot of phone calls and contacts about it, but yeah, kei te pai, we don't think it's a good thing. And the fact that they didn't even, you know, we as the iwi, they kind of invited us to put something in, but you would have thought, considering the role we played in the last kaupapa, that they would have actually come to us, tōtika nei, and ask for our input, rather than us just being part of the wide sweep of stakeholders. So, kari pai kia mātou. We were here last week to present our research on the widening of ngā awas, and if you give awa a bit more room to breathe, when a 100-year flood comes or 500-year flood comes, you know, it drastically decreases the impact to the wider community. And so down in Tamatea, places like Te Rotoa Kiwa, Te Rotoa Tara, which have been drained out and cropped, yeah, those are the places that used to always pick up our floodwaters, and they are lakes for a reason. Important lakes too, you know, Rotoa Tara, yeah, Te Whateapiti, Te Huhuti, all of those kōrero, and then all of the battles that happened there. So just, you know, allowing mātauranga Māori, as well as mātauranga Taiao. I mean, we had a full team of scientists doing the modelling, and it was pretty awesome to see the mapping, the colours, and you know, see where the water would go based on the science. So, you know, our team, tino pukumahi tēnei wā, we've got the Fish Summit happening next Wednesday, which we will, you know, kōrero kaupapa Taiao from the beginning to the end. So good to see you all there. I know all our Taiwhenua will be having some kōrero. We've got Mike Smith, kei te hara mai ki te kōrero. You know, he's been doing some pretty mean work, Taiao work. Who else is on the bill?
Rahania.
Aoi?
Rahania Te Poki.
Yes, Raihania, coming here from the Wairarapa, Tipuki to talk about some of the work that's going on there. But really it's an opportunity for us as tangata whenua to celebrate ngā mahi, Jackie Taiao. Hey, me ngā uatanga, me ngā wero, kei mui a tātou. So if you look at the title, it's about resilience, but it's also about, you know, some of the things, e whakahoha nei a tātou, e roto i tēnei ao, Taiao nei. But it's yeah, it's a busy space. Taiao, water, security, big kaupapa, and then yeah, the tank. What we are saying clearly is that our hauku nui can support so much, and the consenting regime needs to be based on the capability and capacity of our hauku nui, here taunga hauku nui, our aquifer, and not the other way around, where mea needs this much water, mea needs that much water, and that's the way we base our allocation model. So yeah, we're in mediation, and have been for a number of years around that, but kei te haere tonu tātou, koe te tohe, koe te pakanga.
Ora, tēnā koe, Baden. Oh, well, thank you, everybody. That gets us to the end of our agenda. I'm going to just call upon... so I had a conversation with Tony this morning. So this is his first time at this particular tepu in regards to this committee, and he asked me the question this morning, what is it that this committee does? And I suppose what is its value to regional council? And although this is only your first meeting, I'll be interested in your observations that you've taken from the day.
It's nothing like getting dropped in it twice in one meeting. As a practical guy, I simply, don't appreciate just another talk fest. I actually want to know if this is useful.
Yeah.
And it's going to be unbelievably useful, as I can see sitting here. If you're a regional council rep where I'm voted in by Central Hawke's Bay, that's 16,000 people, but you're representing 180-something thousand people. So to have the stuff on the ground from you guys is unbelievably valuable. So yeah, it's a really privilege to be here, and unbelievably beneficial. So thank you. I had the choice of going with a son to the East Coast Cross Country Champs or sitting here and learning a bit. So shout out to Nicholas, who's just won is the only St John's representative to get to the champs in Gisborne and winning.
Congratulations, awesome.
Thank you for that, Tony. So thank you to our team, to our Māori Relationships Board, to Leanne, thank you very much, and of course to TK and Jack for for stepping in for to Wairama. So it took two men to do one way in his job.
Of course it did.
So, ka tai mai te wā, ka whakakapi a tātou hui, he waiata e tīmata, e huri taraka ki a koe tika i whakakapi.
Ka waiata.
Mai e te tipua, mai e te tawhito, mai e te kahui o ngā ariki, mai e te tawhiwhi kia rongo. Whakahotu nuku, whakahotu rangi te manua, ko tōu manua e rongo, ko tōku manua e rongo. Tēnā ka whakairihia, uhi, wero, tau mai te mauri, haumi e hui e...
Tai ki e.
Tai ki e.
Kia ora.
Kia ora,
It's,